listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to U.S. Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country to win. You need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Same thing with climate change. Oh yeah? Why don't you stop with your carbon emissions? Because it obviously we need a mass mobilization, and obviously this is not something that can be achieved at the individual level, especially since it's 100 corporations that are responsible for 71% of the emissions. So you can't, even if everybody stopped all their personal carbon emissions, it's not going to put a fucking dent into it. But shit like that does not land. People read it and they're like, shut the fuck up. Allow me to give you a one-way ticket to shut the fuck upsville, bitch. Not interested in your nonsense. So, but here's an issue where, listen, it's sticking a little bit. And it's kind of scary to see because it's such nonsense. So, what am I talking about? Well, a few weeks ago, an article came out that basically said, like, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and I think even Elizabeth Warren they put in the article, but I might be wrong about that. The new issue that the Democrats are hopping on board with, reparations. And they have this fawning article. Now, the reality of the situation is this. They are calling it, or at least some of those candidates are calling it, I support reparations. When you read the specifics of it, it's not reparations at all. They're talking about, like, Cory Booker's baby bonds. That's not reparations. I think there's targeted tax credits. That's not reparations. And in some instances, it's not even for the black community specifically. But they're calling it reparations. So what we have here is dishonest politicians, a dishonest media that plays along with them, and frames this issue as, would you look at that? Cory Booker and Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, they're out-lefting Bernie Sanders. Isn't that great? Don't you want anybody but Bernie? And again, they're framing it as, see, red meat to the base. We have, a further left-wing position here that Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren are taking beyond Bernie. Now, what's happened since that totally misleading article came out and, the total misdirection on this issue happened, Bernie Sanders was asked about reparations on his CNN town hall with Wolf Blitzer. He was asked about it in maybe every single interview he's done since he's launched. He's too honest to say he supports direct reparations when he doesn't support reparations. Again, the other candidates are not honest, so they're like, yeah, I support reparations. And you read their plan and it's not reparations. And so, boom. What's the trick? The trick here is, oh shit, they perceive his weakness as he doesn't do well among black Americans. So let's try to kneecap him further, and let's try to undermine him, undercut his argument as the furthest left option and the candidate of the people, and let's try to prop up people who are more corporate as being for the people and being for the black community. And then they're trying to feed this narrative of like Bernie Sanders, old, out-of-touch white man, Bernie Sanders, not as good on these issues as Cory Booker and Kamala Harris and maybe even Elizabeth Warren. And it is as cynical and destructive and misleading and bullshit a smear tactic as I've ever seen. But God damn it, it's clever and it's working a little bit. Now, in order to discuss this further, we have to get into the issue of reparations. Is reparations something the Democratic candidate should support? And is reparations something the Democratic candidate should put front and center? You want to know what it polls at? 32% popularity. Now, by the same token, take the issue of abolishing the death penalty. Even though I'm personally in favor of abolishing the death penalty because 4% of the time we kill the wrong people, okay? Would I be telling a Democrat in the 2020 race to run with and put that front and center? Yes, I, as a candidate, am running on abolishing the death penalty. No, I wouldn't tell them to do that. Why? Because the death penalty is actually popular in this country. I haven't seen polls recently, but the last time I saw them, it was about 53%, 54% of the country that supports the death penalty. So this is called not being a dumbass and winning elections. This is called using your advantages. This is called crafting a campaign that gets widespread support and propels you to victory. And then, in the case of the death penalty, if you get elected and then you have the opportunity to do something to stop the death penalty, even though you didn't run on it, yeah, fight to change public opinion on that issue, and then do the right thing and get rid of the death penalty. But on the issues of reparations specifically, it only has 32% popularity. So in some ways, it's like a weird race to the bottom type thing where Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and even Elizabeth Warren are like, okay, we are going to try to do what they think is appealing to the Democratic base, and we're going to call this thing we're doing reparations. It's not reparations. By the way, the policies that they're actually fighting for, or they say they support, baby bonds and targeted tax credits, I think those are more popular than reparations. So if they were just honest and said, no, I don't support reparations, but I do support baby bonds and tax credits, that would be more popular and would probably get them more votes. But again, they're weaponizing this against Bernie Sanders specifically.
Whew, that was a lot.
That was painful.
Yeah,
all right.
painful.
So,
okay. So real quick, let's what's going to happen now is we're going to go around the table. Of course, it's going to be ladies first. Also, just really quick, that video was recorded in March 2019. So here we're in right now we're doing the post. The post, what do you call this?
Postmortem.
Yeah, we're doing postmortem autopsy here. I personally have written an article called Bernie Sanders Never Had a Chance at Actify Press. You can find it. We'll put a link in the description. You can find it on Actify Press. Again, that's Bernie Sanders Never Had a Chance. So I covered a few of these things. In full disclosure, this is my first time listening to the video. I did not do my homework, but luckily everybody else on the panel did. So I'm just going to fill in. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go around the table and everybody's going to take a few minutes and the rest of us will be quiet. Everybody take a few minutes to throw out their opening arguments. And then we'll go, everybody get a chance to do the opening arguments, and then we'll have some crosstalk. And I'll toss something out there on occasion. And other than that, I'll try to stay out the way.
I was going to ask, can we go through and just play back the video and just kind of go section by section? Because I want to tackle that whole piece because he says so much. He says so much. So just start playing back for me and I'll tell you where to stop and then I'll go and everybody can go on that point and then we'll keep going because he just says so much. I don't want to let nothing slide.
Yeah. With you. I'm with you.
That does not land. People read it and they're like, shut the fuck up. Allow me to give you a one-way ticket to shut the fuck upsville, bitch. Not interested in your nonsense. So, but here's an issue where, listen, it's sticking a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I tap dance.
And it's kind of scary to see because it's such nonsense. So what am I talking about? Well, a few weeks ago, article came out that basically said, like, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and I think even Elizabeth Warren they put in the article, but I might be wrong about that. The new issue that the Democrats are hopping on board with, reparations. And they have this fawning article. Now, the reality of the situation is this. They are calling it, or at least some of those candidates are calling it, I support reparations. When you read the specifics of it, it's not reparations at all. They're talking about, like, Cory Booker's baby bonds. That's not reparations. I think there's targeted tax credits. That's not reparations. And in some instances, it's not even for the black community.
Boom, stop it.
Cory Booker's baby bonds. That's not
Okay. So when he says a lot of the stuff that they're describing is not reparations, broken clocks. Good job. Good job. Good job, Kyle. You did a good job. Yes, the stuff that they are talking about is not reparations. And guess what? Negroes knew that too. It's amazing that Black people can actually see through the BS. And I understand it's not all Black people, but let's not pretend that y'all don't have some aunties and grandparents who y'all can't get to act right when it comes to voting either. So let's not just pretend like Black people are the only uninformed group. Okay. So yes, we knew that was not reparations. That's why we wouldn't back your board, Bernie. Can you go ahead and, okay. So I'm gonna let y'all go through because he's gonna go into the next part where he starts talking about Kamala and Cory Booker, and we can deal with that whole thing next. But I just want y'all to be able to tackle that first little section. If y'all got anything for that.
Okay, go ahead, John. You're up.
Shit, man, Jesus. Fucking Christ. This is the playbook of, like, this is the anti-black leftist. He gave every anti-black leftist argument, anti-reparation argument ever. He did all the fucking obfuscating and the trickery, and he was talking about the neo-libs are trying to trick you Black folk. Stop talking to think about reparations. You can think for yourself, Black people, and it posed at 32%, and blah, blah. And what about everybody? And criminal justice, we got something for that. And help. He did everything under the sun to say, listen, this whole argument, and I'm finished with this shit. This whole argument was basically him fucking trying to appeal to Black people by saying, like, yo, they don't really support reparations, but Bernie said he didn't know, so he's telling the truth. Like, he really don't give a damn. So vote for him? Yay!
A lot of African Americans are starting to call for reparations for the many years of stolen labor through slavery. Is that something that you would support as president?
No, I don't think so. I think it would be, first of all, its likelihood of getting through a Congress is nil. Second of all, I think it would be, very divisive. I think the real issue is when we look at the poverty rate among the African American community, when we look at the high unemployment rate within the African American community, the incarceration rate within the African American community, we have a lot of work to do. So I think what we should be talking about is making massive investments in rebuilding our cities, in creating millions of decent paying jobs, in making public colleges and universities tuition free, and working on childcare. Basically, targeting our federal resources to the areas that it is needed the most, and where it is needed the most are in impoverished communities, often African American and Latino.
I don't know if y'all caught the rest of that, like what I said.
I feel he got cut around where he said every anti-black.
Oh yeah, well he said every
white liberal racist anti-reparations.
He really like read every book on all the anti-black, anti-leftist reparations arguments and put a smorgasbord of that shit into this video to undermine reparations, to undermine Black people, to try to convince us to vote for everybody. All this shit that Adolf has been, like, everything he said about the left, he literally just did it. Like, that shit is like a parody. Like, it's so fucking, it's crazy. And like, then I think one part of we just still talking about that first part where he was just saying, like, oh, well, the neo-libs, man, you gotta, it's a neoliberal, it's an identity politic neoliberal conspiracy, dude. Bernie Sanders, dude. Like, come on, dude, we gotta chill, dude. And Black people, come on, dude. We can't give you reparations, dude. The Medicare for the Rust Belt, dude. Like, get the fuck out of here with that dumb shit, man. I ain't want to hear all that shit. Y'all don't even know what you're talking about. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's talking about reparations polled at 32%. shit been polling at like 2%. When is it? Nothing that
we
black
didn't even
people
get that far yet. We didn't get that far.
All right. You know what? Let me
don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. You gotta go section by section. No, because I'm ready for that one. I'm ready for that one too.
I know. You know what? You better.
Section.
I'm gonna let you handle that, sis. I'm gonna let you handle that, sis. I'm gonna get it out of here, Mud. All right, Mud. What you got to say, cousin?
All right, I disagree with you about one thing you said. You said this is like Bernie Sanders' message to black people. Nah, this is the white people meeting. They're having the white people meeting in front of us. This is all them talking about white people shit. You know, we weren't even a concern. Now, I think it's funny, you know, I didn't, like he's referencing the article, but obviously he didn't mention Marianne Williamson at all. And she has she's talking about the real deal. But even though it was, you know, it was like low, but
except for that low ball number.
Yeah, she's low balling us. Well, she's not doing that anymore because they all out. But anyways.
Yeah, but she's still out here. But she's still out here running her mouth with that number. I liked Marianne, so she kept pushing that number after we told her wasn't enough. Like, you're not running no more, so you don't need to use that $500 billion number no more, ma'am.
I know. Anyways, I think we also got to pay attention to, he makes it a point to talk about how these other people's plans aren't specific to black people and how that's not really reparations. You know, he's right about that. And I think we need to give him credit, but we also need to take points away when he goes on later on in this video talking about black issues and how everything's a black issue. But, you know, that's all I got on it.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Okay. Your turn. Your turn.
All right. So for me, the whole beginning is off for me, right? Because we're talking about a very serious issue, and a lot of these things that he's mentioning from beginning to end could be fixed by reading my article, the first one I wrote, the first ADOS article I wrote, or talking to us, not about us, not around us, but talking to us. All right. And that could have been a big fix for a lot of these things that went on with Bernie's campaign, but they intentionally shut us out. And this is what happens. All right. So, you ready to go on? You guys ready to go on?
Yes, please. Please go ahead and start back up.
Sam's excited.
Oh, I've been here for this. Y'all saw me on Twitter. I was eating y'all up. I was eating them up anyways. I've been ready for this long form, not having to be limited, all those little characters.
Yeah. All right, here we go. All right, going to the next.
Like The Wire when he was like, she.
All right, here we go.
And in some instances, it's not even for the black community specifically, but they're calling it reparations. So what we have here is dishonest politicians, a dishonest media that plays along with them, and frames this issue as, oh, would you look at that? Cory Booker and Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, they're out-lefting Bernie Sanders. Isn't that great? Don't you want anybody but Bernie?
Right there.
All right.
So, all of what he is saying right there, if he would have taken time to listen to any ADOS people, which I understand ADOS is kind of new, and in March we were still kind of new, even though at that point I'd still been online for like a year and we had been going at this for a minute. But yeah. White progressives, I think it's time y'all start listening to the black shows. We watch all your shows. We've been watching a lot of your shows. A lot of you we used to watch faithfully until we found out you're a little anti-black. So, yeah. So it's time for you guys to start watching our stuff so you can kind of figure out what we're trying to say. So if you would have listened to us, you would have known that we didn't like Kamala Harris or Cory Booker. We got on Cory Booker about not having a real reparations plan. Cory Booker was the only ADOS person running in this election on the major ticket, and he had nothing for his people. But he had that story about how his family, a white person, had to buy their house for them to be able to move into the neighborhood to break the segregation. So you got this real black civil rights struggle story, but you're not doing out here to do any of the work that the people did for your family to get your people where they are. So Cory Booker was a no, and Kamala, I'm not doing anything for black people. No, like we wasn't voting for her neither. So you thought because they were brown hued people that we were just going to jump on board. And I'm tired of people thinking that Black people voted for Obama just because he was Black. Yes, they voted for him because he was Black, but they also voted for him because he was selling the dream of hope and change. The same reason white people who voted for Obama switched to Trump now, because of the fact that they voted for hope and change and they thought their lives were going to get better. And instead, they still lost their houses. They still ended up losing their savings, and they're angry and they're pissed, and they deserve to be. And it's not all racism. So that's what I have to say about that. Go ahead.
Well,
Big
I
John.
think, I think Sam said basically, it's only what I mean. He's just all of this is just him just making this argument for his candidate. Like you guys already said about like what like Mud said. This is the white people mean. Like this is us black folk looking in on the white people meeting this shit. Like, what we gonna do about the Negroes? Huh? Oh damn, Bernie, they're trying to so they trying to so this is them back then during the election trying to scramble. He's trying to trying to do his little fucking matrix flip. Trying to do his little judo, his magic, whatever. But I think what Sam said was correct about
mental
this.
Gymnastics.
Yeah, his mental gymnastics, his fucking reverse psychology, all this bullshit, whatever. But I think that Sam, what you said is exactly right. You didn't like Obama, and with MG, what you said is right. Like, why don't you come talk to us? Why are you talking to us? You're doing the same thing that you accuse the liberals of and the right wing of, the left doing. You talking to us like, come on, dudes. You guys know better, man. You guys are like the fucking Martin Luther Kings, man. And blah, blah, like, yo, like, bro, well, come ask me what I want. No, come on, man. He don't even. So, and I want to point out that he's pointing out that these people have nothing specific for black people in their plan. Bernie Sanders had nothing specific for black people in his plan. So he's pointing this out when talking about the opposition, but he can't even really look his candidate in his eyes and look at his shit like, yo, you don't even really got nothing for black people, Bernie. What you doing? But no, he want to play them. He want to play these games. So that's my takeaway on it. But don't worry, we don't put them on the grill. We don't get them on the grill. Don't worry about it.
All right, Mud.
Damn, y'all didn't really leave any meat on the bone. I don't really have much else to say except for, like, I think it needs to be pointed out that Cory Booker got the baby bonds idea from Sandy Darity. Sandy Darity is, one of the main proponents that's been fighting for reparations for damn near
Sandy,
30.
and also don't forget Derek. I know Derek,
Derek
be playing both sides of the fence.
Yeah,
he a wishy-washy Negro, but he has his value. We can't throw everybody away because they don't agree with everything we say. But yeah, so Derek was involved in that one too. But he advising Biden and ain't nothing happening. Sorry for interrupting, Mud.
Nah. That's true. Other than that, like, I just want to add on to what John was saying about, like, shit. Now I can't think of it. Shit. What were you saying about fucking?
How he was pointing out that other candidates ain't have specific policy for black folk, but he couldn't really make that analysis, in the real truthful way about his own candidate. You talking about when I said that, or?
No. When you was talking about basically them having the white people meeting, like, this was.
Oh,
they're not even, like, what's going on? Like, they're not even considering our interests. Like, they might be thinking that they're talking to us, but none of this is about, like, the perspective of what if we're actually interested in this. Like, he doesn't even consider that in his talking points. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. He's like Mud just said. He thinks he's talking to us. There is a segment of people that he is talking to. There's a segment of black people who are Bernie diehards. There's like 3 of them, right? But and at this point in 2019, it was this reparations was like as Kyle's trying to frame it here, they viewed it as a threat specifically against Bernie Sanders, but that wasn't the case. But we'll go more into that later. But I think there is a segment of black people that they're talking to, but most of them are black socialists who are already on board for whatever Bernie says or whatever these folks say, and they were hiding from this whole reparations discussion for the longest time. Some folks came aboard late, came aboard later. Some folks still haven't gotten aboard, but they are appealing to a segment of the choir, so to speak. All right, let's run to the next one. Next piece. You ready, Sam?
I'm ready.
All right.
He was asked about it in maybe every single interview he's done since he's launched. He's too honest to say he supports direct reparations when he doesn't support reparations. Again, the other candidates are not honest, so they're like, yeah, I support reparations, and you read their plan and it's not reparations. And so, boom. What's the trick? The trick here is, oh shit, they perceive his weakness as he doesn't do well among Black Americans. So let's try to kneecap him further, and let's try to undermine him, undercut his argument as the furthest left option and the candidate of the people, and let's try to prop up people who are more corporate as being for the people and being for the Black community. And then they're trying to feed this narrative of like Bernie Sanders, old, out-of-touch white man, Bernie Sanders, not as good on these issues as Cory Booker and Kamala Harris and maybe even Elizabeth Warren. And it is as cynical and destructive and misleading and bullshit a smear tactic as I've ever seen. But God damn it, it's clever and it's working a little bit.
Can you go ahead and pause that real quick?
Good on these issues as.
Mm-hmm. All right, go ahead.
So I'm not gonna, because most of what he said is kind of redundant, but I want to get into it. He's like, they're just trying to set this up as Bernie Sanders, old, out of touch white man. Bernie Sanders was an old, out of touch white man. There are videos of Bernie Sanders when being addressed by Black people talking about reparations, where he's had security escort them out, where he's walked away like they didn't matter. I don't care what white people say, because people get upset when you say Bernie looked like a big old bigot. And people say, no, Bernie marched in the 60s. So you think there aren't any people who are anti-Black marching with Black Lives Matter?
A good person, you can't be racist. Can you talk, just unpack that a little bit more?
Sure. Racism is a highly adaptive system, and it has adapted to challenges. And I think the most brilliant adaptation the system of racism made to the challenges of the civil rights movement was to reduce the definition of a racist to a very simple formula. Always an individual, not a system, who consciously doesn't like people based on race, must be conscious, and intentionally seeks to be mean to them, must be intentional. So an individual consciously mean. That definition functions beautifully to exempt virtually all white people from the system we're actually in. And I think it's the root of virtually all white defensiveness on the topic of racism. And so it's functioned to protect racism. It has not helped our outcomes. By every measure, there's deep racial disparity in this country. It's growing by many measures, and yet that definition allows virtually all white people to exempt themselves. And since you're giving me the opportunity, I think white progressives are the hardest. I think so you all are not the choir, sorry. I don't see any group of white people as the choir, because that suggests that our learning is finished. And the moment we become complacent, we're gonna be problematic in our interactions. So the reason I say that white progressives can be the most challenging is because we're most likely to be in your lives. And the degree that we think we're good to go for all the reasons we're gonna tell you. I mean, I've been to Costa Rica,
I have Black friends.
My second cousin married a Black guy. I was in the Peace Corps. I could go on and on.
I marched in the 60s, or I marched.
Black baby.
I marched in a Black Lives Matter protest.
And here's what I have to say about March in the 60s, right? Anybody ever heard that one, I marched in the 60s, right? If you're white and you march in the 60s, thank you. It made a difference. It was important. And damn, I wished I marched in the 60s. I'd be certified as free of racism for the next 70 years. And I'm sure there was no white patronizing going on when all those folks went down. So the evidence we give for our lack of racism is pretty thin and not convincing generally to people of color. And so white progressives can cling to this self-image that's so important to us that we are not open in any way to having that challenge. So we're going to defend, deflect, deny, explain that you must have misunderstood me if you thought that was racist, because I'm not racist. So you misunderstood me. So white progressives can be a pain.
Some of those same people marching with Black Lives Matter right now live in gentrified neighborhoods, and the few Black people left in their neighborhood, they don't even speak to. Okay? So let's quit pretending like people don't do things for their own gain. And there's even a video of Bernie Sanders saying that he wasn't down with King until King started talking about the Poor People's Campaign and started talking about class stuff.
And I want those people who are as old as I am to remember Martin Luther King Jr.'s last years. Everybody today, all the editorial papers say, oh, wasn't Martin Luther King a great guy? He fought for racial justice, a great hero. Remember that a year before King died, when King spoke out against the war in Vietnam, and when King said we need billions of dollars to provide decent jobs, not only for black people, but for white people. And when King said, I am going to organize a poor people's march to go to Washington, of blacks and whites and yellows, but of poor people to demand justice. Suddenly, when Martin Luther King began talking that language and taking on the system, my goodness, the FBI was investigating him and tapping his phone. The President of the United States wasn't talking to him. The real issue in this country is class.
So y'all keep bringing up Bernie like he was doing something for Black people. No, he was doing something for poor whites. So my whole thing is Black people are Americans. ADOS are Americans. We've been here for over 400 years. You need to start treating us like American citizens and giving us policy and doing the things that you need to do for us, just like you do for everybody else. This shouldn't be a discussion, but for you to show disdain for the Black community, and don't get it twisted, I was a person who wanted to vote for Bernie, especially because I'm one of those 5% Blacks, the ones that are in the top 5%, because my great granny left me a house. So I have college debt. That would have been great for me. It would have been, I'm in college right now. Free college would have been wonderful. Everything Bernie was talking about was great, but the problem is it would have made my life way better, but the poorest in my community, it would have barely scratched the surface. So how can I be like, yeah, I'm pro Bernie at the same time and say that I'm pro my people? I can't care about what's going to help me and not care about what's going to help my people. So Bernie showed himself to seem anti-Black. I'm not going to call him a bigot. I'm not going to say he's anti-Black. I don't know the man, but how he was perceived by the Black community was that way. And a lot of you were not willing to accept that. You kept trying to explain it away instead of checking your candidate. If you guys would have pushed Bernie on reparations and Black issues, he would have did it. But since you guys were like, no, he was like, no. The reason why Bernie wouldn't do reparations is because he was afraid that white people were too racist to be willing to go along with reparations. So that says a lot about what he thinks about white people, because I believe a lot of white people are going to be willing to go along with reparations.
Listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, back on the grill again. We grilling them, You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to U.S. Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redline and lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. The way you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.
Hey, this is MG from Reset Race. We're growing and so is our mission. Because of this, we're looking for volunteers to join our team. The skills we need most right now are researchers, video editors, and men and women to do voiceovers. If you're interested in helping out, go to actifypress.com/volunteer. Again, actifypress.com/volunteer. We hope to hear from you soon. Peace and justice from myself and the rest of the Reset Race crew.